please pause the video and try this question on your own before we take a look at the explanation. Okay, so we're asked if A and B are prime numbers, which of the following cannot be the sum of A and B? So to do this question, we'll take a look at each answer choice, and if we're able to write the answer choice as the sum of two primes, then we'll get rid of it. My advice to you is that you memorize all of the primes below 20. If you're comfortable with those primes, then you'll be able to do a lot of questions involving primes much more quickly. So questions like this, or prime factorization questions, a lot of divisibility questions, and so on. So what are the primes below 20 or less than 20? Those are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, and 19. So there's 8 of them total. Again, I recommend that you memorize these. The ones 2, 3, 5, 7, you'll probably use quite often in your prime factorization. These other 4, not as much, but they're still quite helpful. So with these primes in hand, let's take a look at the question. So let's take a look at the answer choices. Can we write 7 as the sum of two primes? We certainly can. We can write them as 2 plus 5. So 7 is out because it can be written as the sum of two primes. What about 14? Well, we can write 14 as 11 plus 3. So that's out. What about 18? We can write that as 11 plus 7 or 13 plus 5. So that's out as well. 26 can be written as 19 plus 7. Also 23 plus 3, but that's not one of the primes that we're really concerned with. And so that means by process of elimination, E is our correct answer. But just to prove that's the case, let's see what happens if we try to write it as the sum of two primes. So if we try to write this as, let's say, 2, which is a prime, plus something, well, that has to be 2 plus 27, and 27 itself is not prime. If we then say, well, what about if we try maybe 3 plus something? So I'm picking a prime and seeing what else I need to add to get to 29. 3 plus 26 is 29, and 26 is not prime. What about 5? Well, 5 plus 24 gives us 29, and again, 24 is not prime. We'll do one more and then I'll show you the pattern. So if I do, for example, 7 plus 22, again, 22 is not prime. So what's happening here? Let's focus on these three for a second. Every time I put in an odd prime, because 29 is an odd number, the other number has to be even. So an odd plus an even gives us an odd. 29 is odd. So if I'm starting with an odd prime, I have to add to it an even number. Again, if I start with 5, I have to add an even number. And if I start with 7, I have to add to 22, which is an even number. So in these instances, none of these even numbers are prime. Now there is one case when we have an even prime. And as you may imagine, if I start with 2, then this number has to be odd. However, when I have an even prime, 27, the odd number is not prime. So what happens with 29 is that we have two scenarios. We either have 2 plus 27, so we start with an even prime, and we add to that some odd number, and the odd number is not prime. So we're adding a prime plus some not prime to get 29. Or we start with an odd prime, and we add to that an even non-prime, because we have to add some number that's not 2. When we add 2, then we have to do it with 27 to get 29. So in both of these cases, we can never get both of the numbers that are adding up to 29 to be prime. Either it's an odd plus an even non-prime, or it's an even prime plus an odd non-prime. And therefore, 29 can never be written as the sum of two prime numbers.